Good evening and welcome. My name is Nick. I'm our Senior Recruitment Product Manager here at the Faculty of UNSW Medicine and Health. I also look after our programs for UNSW Science. Look, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here tonight for this, our Master of Optometry information session. I'm going to be joined on the virtual stage here by some of our experts who teach into our Master of Optometry program. They're going to be able to share some really unique insights into what we get up to here in the Master of Optometry, how we can extend and advance your careers and give you some really deep and important knowledge to be able to engage really effectively with your clients and to potentially also consider future careers down, say, the research pathway. As we begin, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country and acknowledge the Bedegal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land the UNSW Kensington campus stands on. I'd also like to acknowledge the Darawal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land that I'm currently on, as we're joining here remotely from all of our homes. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders both past and present, and extend that respect to any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who may be present here today. So to give you a bit of a quick overview of what we're going to get up to today, we're really going to divide this into two sections. So I'm going to be joined by Associate Professor Juno Kim, who's our program authority for the Master of Optometry program. And he's going to give us an overview of how the Optometry program works, some insights into the course content, how you can structure it, and some of the flexibility as well that the program entails, particularly across the opportunity to study in other faculties, so the University of New South Wales Business School, so doing some management and some marketing units, but also the opportunity to do some population health units to really complement your interests and again extend your knowledge in different areas that might complement the kinds of optometry work that you're currently undertaking. We're then going to be joined by Dr. Pauline Kang. She's the Director of Learning and Teaching here at the School of Optometry and Vision Science, and she's going to give us a taster lecture of what you can expect to be studying within the Master of Optometry. I'm going to jump on and give you the probably unfun part of tonight's session, which is the ins and outs of the admission side of things, and often the kind of curly questions that we get from students who are thinking about studying these kinds of postgraduate programs. We're then going to be joined by Dr. Vinod Masudapalli, as well as Juno Kim again. So they're the joint authorities for the Master of Optometry program, and we're going to do a Q&A with both of them and answer all of the questions you might have about studying the Master of Optometry program. So on that note, I really encourage you, type your questions in the chat. I can see that we've got quite a few people who have joined us already. So as more and more people join us, obviously we'll encourage them to throw their questions in. But if you want to throw them in now, we're going to hold most of them to the very end because we will cover a lot of ground, a lot of content, hopefully very quickly over the next 45 to 50 minutes. If you like questions as well, we'll upvote the questions and we'll make sure that we get to them as soon as possible. So I'll give a little bit of a brief overview of UNSW for those of you who may not be familiar with us as an institution, particularly if you're joining from, say, interstate. But we're an institution who was founded back in 1949. And look, it's really significant because we were founded to fill a technical skills gap following World War II. So there was a shortage of scientists and engineers within New South Wales and Australia more broadly. And we were brought in by the government to fill in that gap. Since then, though, we've broadened ourselves. We've got 6 different faculties here. We've got 60,000 students, 300+ degrees. We're an enormous institution that does some phenomenal research work and some phenomenal teaching as well. And we really make sure we bring as much of that together as possible within the classroom for students. So there's lots of opportunities within UNSW, and we'll talk about some of the postgraduate programs within the School of Optometry and Vision Science specifically very shortly. One thing to note, though, is that within all of our programs, we try to embed as much practical learning as possible. And so our work integrated learning team, they're a platform which sits centrally across the entire university and aims to embed as many internship and work experience opportunities within our degrees as possible. So there's lots of ties to industry connections. Many of you, again, may have heard about tonight's information session through your colleagues. And it's really just testament to the fact that we work very closely with industry, particularly in programs like this where we're teaching into, but equally you're out there in the industry leading the way in some of the technical developments that are out there today. So if we jump to the next slide, I'm going to give a brief overview about some of the key elements we're really proud of here at UNSW. And look, I think the postgraduate salaries are obviously something that people are always thinking about, but I really love to talk about the fact that these are really flexible programs. And when Associate Professor Kim jumps on, he's going to take you through the fact that really the Optometry program in particular is designed almost like a jigsaw puzzle, to steal his analogy. And that's because you really have the flexibility to build it up and make sure that it aligns with your interests and what you want to get out of your degree. And so we really strive to make sure that that's the case across all of our programs, particularly at postgraduate level, because we know that you're time poor, you're looking to advance your careers, you're looking to pursue your passions and extend your knowledge in certain areas, but that it is quite a commitment. And so we have a blend of obviously online learning, but physical learning as well. And we really make sure that you've got the option to make sure that aligns with where you are both professionally and personally at this point in time. If we jump onto the next slide, we'll talk a little bit briefly now about the Faculty of Medicine and Health. And look, I mean, we're a top 50 medical school, and I think one thing that really jumps out for me in terms of my work and getting to engage with lots of incredible academics across the entire faculty is the fact that there is a strong sense of interconnectedness across all of our schools within medicine and health, and equally with say the Prince of Wales Hospital, which is just over the road from where we do our teaching, and a lot of, again, the industry partners, the organisations, the hospitals, the clinics that we work with on a daily basis to train up our students across a huge range of health programs. We're really about making a difference, and I think the real thing that lands with me whenever I'm engaging with students is the fact that there is that really strong drive to push themselves and challenge themselves, and you'll see that in the structure of this program. It is a program that's going to extend your knowledge very much, but you're going to build some amazing networks and connections along the way who will support you throughout your studies and beyond that. And so now, if we jump to the next slide, I'm going to introduce Associate Professor Juno Kim to take us through a real deep dive now into the Master of Optometry program, what you can expect for it, and then I'll jump back on to introduce Dr. Pauline Kang for our taster lecture. So Juno, welcome to the virtual stage. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Nick. I'm Juno Kim, and I am one of the two program authorities responsible for overseeing the Master of Optometry degree. And I work very closely with Dr. Vinod Masdapalli, and together we not only manage the program, but we also look for new ways in which we can evolve the course over time so that we ensure that we can adapt to the changing needs of optometry as a profession. So if we can just go to the next slide, please. Why would you study at UNSW School of Optometry and Vision Science? Well, our school's mission relates to advancing vision and eye health in society through world-class innovation, multidisciplinary education and research. Our school is home to academics who are at the forefront of innovation in research and world-class achievements in driving innovation at the forefront of global innovation in anterior eye health, posterior eye health, as well as community eye health. We also have academics who are world-renowned researchers in vision sciences, and basically the School of Optometry provides you with this vibrant educational culture that you can engage with. Being at UNSW, we have close affiliations with the Brian Holden Vision Institute as well as the Centre for Eye Health. So really, being based at the School of Optometry and Vision Science really does open your new opportunities for you, not only in coursework, but also research. So the school offers undergraduate programs in vision science and optometry, but also postgraduate programs, which are very important for tonight's discussion, because we excel in what we do in terms of research excellence as well as educational excellence that is delivered through coursework. So enrolling in an MOptom basically gives you the opportunity to engage with these two strengths available within our school. And the Master of Optometry essentially aims to give registered optometrists, that's you, the advanced training necessary to expand your knowledge and professional skills in optometry and also vision science. Students will be able to develop expertise in multiple areas, including contact lenses, myopia control, as well as community eye health and sensory processes and vision research. So basically you have the ability to engage in a range of different course offerings within the school that are targeted towards the profession of optometry as well as vision science. But very newly, we've introduced new opportunities that are available through courses that are provided by UNSW Business School, which is has an outstanding global reputation for delivery of educational excellence in business, as well as the School of Population Health, where you can engage in courses centred around public health. So there are a whole range of different ways that you can structure your degree now with the new ways that we've evolved the program. And in doing so, you can access new opportunities in what you can do in your profession. So some of these are shown here. So we have private practice. You may want to return to your studies to further expand your knowledge and expertise in not only clinical practice, taking your clinical practice to the next level, but also expanding your knowledge and expertise in, say, for example, marketing that you can engage with through courses offered by the UNSW Business School. So you could understand principles of marketing, understand how you can access multiple markets and engage more effectively with patients as customers or clients as customers. So expanding the capacity and reach of your organisation, basically. Also in public policy, so you can take courses that are offered by the UNSW School of Population Health. So there are public health courses that are available in, for example, the foundations of public health and healthcare systems will provide you with an insight into how healthcare organisations are structured and the governance associated with them, so that you can exert influence within this space of governance within the field of optometry, both domestically and also more globally. And then industrial innovation. So if you've been working in clinical practice for many years, engaging with a particular technique time and time again, and being able to recognise that this can be done in a much better way, if only, it's taking that if only aha moment that you've experienced and turning that idea into an innovation that you can then capitalise on and see the commercial benefits from by engaging in courses offered by UNSW Business School. And ultimately, in all three of these domains, you can support your development in these areas through engaging in research, which is a core component in the Master of Optometry and is another viable pathway into academic studies, further studies, high degree research studies, for example, into a PhD. If you collected some data and got a publication, then you would be on your road to becoming eligible for enrolling in a PhD subsequent to completing the Master of Optometry degree. Wide range of opportunities available. So what is the Master of Optometry? Well, it's a 72-unit of credit postgraduate degree, and it can be taken 1.5 years full-time or multiple years part-time if you're a domestic student. Students are now, as I mentioned, able to diversify their studies into courses offered by UNSW Business School and the School of Population Health. So you can take up to 18 units of credit of those 72 in courses offered by those other schools outside of the School of Optometry and Vision Science. So you can structure the program in many different ways now when you think about it to basically address your career aspirations and make them realisable. So let's have a closer look at how to structure your Master of Optometry degree. So all students who enrol in a Master of Optometry will have to do two core or foundation courses. There is the evidence-based optometry course, which runs in term 2 and provides students with advanced training in evidence-based practice, understanding how you can and understanding the nature of evidence and how you can gather evidence more effectively and critically appraise that evidence to then apply it to introducing new innovations in the way you deliver healthcare in optometry, and also two optional courses that are available in research. So you have to choose one of these two. We have a 12-unit of credit research project, which spans an entire year and gives you the opportunity to really delve deeply into a particular research topic of your interest and choosing. And you can engage with an academic based in our school who may be a world-class researcher in this area, so that you can then be well on the road to developing yourself academically in research. We also have a 6-unit of credit research skills in optometry course, which runs over just one term. It's more intensive, but it's highly recommended that you do consider taking the 12-unit of credit research project, primarily just because it gives you that flexibility of having a longer duration to engage with research and delve more deeply in it, and also apply for human research ethics review. So most research in optometry requires access to human participants, and there's an ethical review process that's involved in that, which can take a few weeks. So enrolling in that larger program will give you that time necessary to seek that approval and then engage in high quality world-class research. But in addition to our core courses, we have a range of elective courses that you can choose within optometry as well as vision science. So we have Introduction to Community Eye Health, Epidemiology of Blinding Eye Diseases, and Eye Care Program Management. And these courses are taught by expert world-class researchers based in LV Prasad Eye Institute in India. So these are delivered online and provide a solution for people who, students who like the flexibility of an online remote learning platform. So we use the Moodle platform for our teaching, and this has been working very effectively over the past 2 years. So it's something that we're deciding to continue doing moving forward. Domestically, within UNSW, we have some courses that have mandatory face-to-face components. So clinical contact hours, and one of those is advanced contact lens studies. And we also have ocular therapy. So we have a graduate certificate in ocular therapeutics, which provides the opportunity for practicing optometrists to return as students to become therapeutically endorsed. One of those foundation courses offered in that program is ocular therapy. Our MOptom or Master of Optometry students are able to also enrol in that course and have access to that learning. We also have specialty contact lens studies, and this course basically has as a prerequisite advanced contact lens studies. So this is a highly advanced level of study that really takes your learning to the highest pinnacle in contact lens practices. So really making the most of your Master of Optometry and the world-class capabilities of our academics based here within the School of Optometry and Vision Science in contact lens research. In addition to these courses that have a mandatory face-to-face component, we'll also have other online courses provided by the School of Optometry and Vision Science. We have Introduction to Myopia and Myopia Management, and it's the topic of tonight's masterclass that will be delivered by Dr. Pauline Kang. And then we have courses that are affiliated with our graduate diploma, a very new graduate diploma in orientation and mobility. So we have the visual system impairments and implications, sensory processes and movement, as well as orientation mobility foundations, which basically give you the foundation knowledge that can broaden your understanding of how you can provide new insights for improving the quality of life for people who have low vision or maybe entirely without vision. But in addition to the courses that are provided in optometry and vision science, we also have those courses that are provided outside our school. So we have courses in public health. So we have foundations in public health and healthcare systems, and foundations of epidemiology, as well as foundations of biostatistics. So these are courses that current and previous MOptom students have completed and found quite useful. So we've included those in the current program, and also courses offered by UNSW Business School in management as well as marketing. So we have professional skills in ethics, and also entrepreneurship and new venture management. So this is the course that you would do if you wanted to take that light bulb idea in a potential innovation that you've experienced in the field, and then come back and then generate some evidence to validate that idea, and create a startup company, and look for ways that you can pitch that to industry, essentially to get support for that startup company, and getting it off the ground. So that would potentially be a course for you. Also managing the leading people, which will provide you with exposure to learning that can better help you better manage and get the most out of people who you supervise or lead people within and outside of your organisation more effectively. In addition to management options, we also have options in marketing. So we have foundation courses of elements of marketing, as well as consumer behaviour and analytics. So if you wanted to understand how to conduct market research and better conduct marketing, communications and promotions campaigns, then there are course offerings available there. So a wide range of offerings available within optometry, as well as in public health and business, that you can choose from, and basically put together in different ways to ensure that you can tailor this program, the Master of Optometry, in ways that are going to fulfill the needs of your career aspirations. So here's a basic study plan that is the traditional variant of the MOptom. So students would undertake evidence-based optometry and supplement that with the research skills in optometry course, and then choose from electives based within the School of Optometry and Vision Science. So choosing 10 6-unit of credit courses there, tallying up to 60 units of credit. So that is one viable configuration for anyone who's currently in clinical practice, who wants to return to studies to take their clinical knowledge and expertise to the next level. And that's a viable option, but now there are other choices that you can make. So you can enroll, for example, in an evidence-based optometry course and combine it with the longer research project. So delving more deeply into research, and then taking a limited set of units or courses from the School of Optometry and Vision Science, and then supplementing that with external units in business, for example, in marketing, so that you can understand more about consumer analytics, and perhaps even understanding the theory associated with that. For example, optometry is a profession. How do we interact with customers, our clients as customers, and how can we identify better ways of doing that to optimize the way we not only increase our access to customers, but increase the quality of our healthcare delivery. So that could be embedded or associated with a potential research project that you could do. So this is a genuine configuration that someone could adopt if they had aspirations for developing their career in that direction. But there are other options as well. So, for example, if we take our evidence-based optometry, combine it with the longer research project and a limited set of options in the School of Optometry and Vision Science, you may then want to combine it with the UNSW Business School management courses. So you could take some management courses and then use those courses, say, for example, in entrepreneurship and new venture management, to develop your career in that particular direction. So taking that innovation, doing some research as part of your research project to validate that idea, and then take that idea to a startup company and pitching it to industry. Alternatively, you may be interested in the ethics component of UNSW Business School's management, and then combining that with courses in public health on the foundations of public health and healthcare systems to better appreciate the public policies in general healthcare and understand governance and how you can exert change and influence on a higher level within optometry in Australia and also perhaps more globally. So there are many ways that you can configure your program to suit your needs, right? So I think at this point in time, you'd probably want to be really thinking about how you can put the pieces together in particular ways to create a program that is going to ensure that you're able to achieve and realise the full potential of your career aspirations. So there's never been a better time to engage with and enrol in Master of Optometry program here at UNSW. And if you have any questions at all, please do reach out to us. So we have a very enthusiastic postgraduate education team. I have myself, Dr. Vinod Masadupalli, Dr. Anne Barnes, who will oversee your enrolments as well as your candidature throughout the program, and Dr. Pauline Kung, who is the presenter for tonight's masterclass. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in 2022.
Brilliant. Look, thanks for that. I'm now going to introduce, in fact, actually, I will echo your comments as well. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of experts here from the school, and it's great to be able to have the support of the school here tonight. So for those who are joining us, if you do have questions, obviously you can reach out to the team later on down the track. But this is a great opportunity to ask all those nitty-gritty questions. So use the chat function, throw your questions in there. We'll answer them in about 15 or 20 minutes at the very end of the session. But it's my delight to bring on to the virtual stage now Dr. Pauline Kang. So Pauline is our Director of Learning and Teaching here at the School of Optometry and Vision Science. And as Juno said, is going to give us a masterclass on myopia management. So Pauline, thanks for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you, Nick, and welcome everyone to today's presentation on the Master of Optometry program. It's a really great program, as Juno mentioned, to be able to increase or upskill. And today what I will be doing is giving you an insight into some of the content that is delivered as a part of the Myopia Management OPTM 7612 course, which I am the course convener of. So the prevalence of myopia does vary across different parts of the world. However, the prevalence rates are in general increasing. So this was a publication that was done by the late Professor Brian Holden back a few years ago to predict the prevalence of myopia over the next few decades. And it has been predicted that myopia will impact approximately 5 billion individuals by 2050, and of that, 1 billion individuals will have high myopia. So when we look at what's happening in Australasia, it's currently estimated that approximately 36% of individuals have myopia, and within the next 10 years, this is going to increase up to almost 44%. Now, myopia is often considered as a mere refractive error, which can be simply corrected with glasses or contact lenses. It's just a visual inconvenience. However, there has been a lot of research that has been done more recently to highlight some of the complications that are associated with myopia. Now, in this table, if you look at the last column, you can see that with any degree of myopia compared to an emmetrope, and a myope has a higher risk of developing certain conditions which have the risk of visual impairment or blindness. So a myopic person will have, so just going back to the previous slide, the myopic person will have a higher risk of developing, for example, myopic macular degeneration, retinal detachment, glaucoma, and cataract. And you can see that with higher degrees of myopia, the risk of these conditions developing potentially later on in life increase dramatically, and particularly for the myopic macular degeneration, you can see that there is a significant risk of developing this condition if you are highly myopic. Now, this is some graphs that I've taken from a large cross-sectional study that was conducted in Europe to be able to understand the prevalence of visual impairment with increases in axial length and spherical equivalent refractive error. And you can see here that individuals who have longer eyeballs or higher or greater axial lengths and individuals who have more myopic refractive errors have overall an increased risk of developing uncorrectable visual impairment compared to those with shorter eye lengths or less myopic refractive errors. And this cumulative risk increases with age. So there has been therefore a lot of studies or research to be able to understand why a person becomes myopic and also to be able to develop interventions to be able to slow down or stop the progression of myopia so that a child will therefore later on in life have minimized their risk of developing visual impairment related to some of the conditions that I had highlighted in the previous slide. So we have sort of two general groups of treatments. We've got the optical and pharmacological. Optical encompasses spectacle lenses and contact lenses, whereas pharmacological treatments is mainly to do with atropine. And today I'm just going to very briefly go through each of those different types of treatments. So there's been studies that have been done a little while ago to look at the impact of multifocal or progressive addition lenses or bifocal lenses on myopia progression. And the premise or the reason behind prescribing these lenses for myopia control is that it is believed that the hyperopic retinal defocus that a myopic child experiences during knee work will stimulate the eyes to grow in axial length or a child to become more myopic. So multifocal and bifocal lenses were prescribed in order to reduce the accommodative lag that a child experiences. However, the studies have shown that the traditional multifocal and bifocal lenses induce limited myopia control effects, although there may be more benefits in children with esophoria and high lags. So at the moment, multifocal or bifocal lenses are not prescribed as probably heavily as some of the other interventions that I will discuss next. So undercorrection as well has been something that has been done in the past where practitioners quite often do this, and there's been studies to look at the impact of undercorrecting a myopic child, and typically it's by about 1/2 to 3/4 of a diopter, as you don't want to interfere with a child's distance vision too much. So 1/2 to 3/4 of a diopter seems to be able to give a child sufficient distance vision. And this was also prescribed under the premise that a myopic child has greater lags of accommodation, so they have a greater risk of progressing in myopia due to that retinal hyperopic defocus. And what studies have shown so far is that undercorrection actually enhances rather than slows down myopia progression. So the current evidence is suggesting that myopic children should actually be given the full distance refractive error correction. Atropine was also prescribed under the thought or hypothesis that accommodation played a role in myopia development, and more research more recently has highlighted that it is probably biochemical changes in the retina and the sclera that plays a role in the myopia control effects of atropine. Now, atropine is a muscarinic receptor antagonist which causes pupil dilation and cycloplegia, and it's quite a potent drug. And for any of you who have tried the 1%, which I have so that I could sort of understand what the visual experience is, the side effects can last almost a week or two. So it's very, very potent drug. But going to the next slide, studies have looked at not the 1% that is commercially available, but looking at the lower concentrations, because there have been studies to show that the lower concentrations of atropine, so going from 0.01 to all the way to 0.05%, those very low concentrations of atropine seem to be able to induce myopia control effects with minimal side effects. So this was a study that was conducted a little while ago, but it's quite a large study, a 5-year clinical trial, and it's been conducted in Hong Kong involving a large number of children, and it's currently the phase 3 results of the study have been published. Essentially what it is it's a study involving a randomized control trial involving 4 to 12-year-old children who've been randomized to be in the placebo, 0.01, 0.025 and 0.05% atropine treatment groups. So they all underwent one of these treatments for the first year. And then in the second year, which is phase 2, those children in the placebo group were then transferred into the 0.05% atropine. After that, there was phase 3, which was very recently published, and I'll share the results of that study in the next slide. But what happened was that they underwent a 1-year washout period in some groups. So of the 3 sort of ongoing treatment groups or atropine treatment groups, they were randomized to be washed out for the following year or to continue treatment for another 1 year as a part of the phase 3 clinical trial. And if we go to the next slide, this graph are some pre-proofs that I was able to find that shows what happened. And overall, the graph on the left-hand side is showing spherical equivalent refractive error changes, whereas the graph on the right-hand side is showing axial length changes over the 3-year treatment period. And at the just during phase 3 of the study, so from the 24 to the 36-month mark, what the authors found was that those children who were continuing on with their atropine treatment, whether it was 0.01, 0.25 or 0.5, also 0.05 concentration groups, they all had similar progression rates during that phase 3 of the study. However, those children who were washed out during that phase 3 of the study, so they weren't receiving any atropine treatment at all, they found that there was a dose-dependent response. So children who were in the higher concentrations of atropine had faster myopia progression during that 1-year washout period. Now, overall, the children who received the 0.05% atropine for the entire clinical trial had very good myopia control effects. And what the authors had concluded was that although in the previous clinical trials that they had suggested that that after a 2-year treatment period, you can wash a child out for a year and initiate treatment if there's any suggestions or signs of myopia progression during that washout period. The results of this study suggested that actually if a child is progressing quite well and responding well to treatment, then you can actually keep them on. However, atropine is an off-label treatment, meaning that it has not been approved for myopia control purposes. So this is something that you need to consider when prescribing this in clinical practice. And this usually involves some sort of information or consent form so that the patient and the guardians or parents are fully aware of the fact that it is off-label treatment. Now, there are lots of other things that are currently being investigated, including the ideal concentration, and the current evidence suggests that 0.05% may be a good concentration of atropine to prescribe. However, there has also only been a limited number of low concentrations that have also been investigated. In terms of treatment periods, a lot of the clinical trials are limited in that they only usually go for 2 or 3 year treatment periods, and for a myopic child, we tend to manage them for over a very long period of time, which spans over 2 to 3 years. So understanding the longer term effects of treatment, not only on their myopia progression, but also on their ocular health is another area of research which is ongoing. And finally, to be able to under rebound effects, so if you actually stop treatment, what happens and how to manage that is also an area which has to be further investigated. However, the current evidence is showing that atropine actually has very good myopia control effects, and it is increasingly prescribed in clinical practice for myopia control purposes. Now, just going on to now novel spectacle lenses, in that these lenses have been designed under the peripheral defocus theory. So more recently, animal studies have shown that it's not only your central vision, but your peripheral vision, which plays a very important role in refractive error development. And this has led to a number of developments in the spectacle and contact lens space, where they try to incorporate myopic defocus onto the peripheral retina, as this has been shown to slow down or stop myopia progression. And one of the spectacle lenses that have been developed is a defocus incorporated multiple spectacles or multiple segment or DIMS spectacle lenses, which is currently marketed as a Myovision lens that is available in clinical practices. And a clinical trial was conducted a couple of years ago, or published a couple of years ago, involving children wearing these treatments over a 2-year treatment period. And looking at the graphs, as you can see on the left-hand side, where we looked at myopia progression using spherical equivalent and axial length changes, you can see that the blue lines, the overall gradients are less steeper, so there was less change in axial length than refractive error over the 24-month treatment period compared to the control single vision lens. And so this study was able to show some of the great benefits of these Myovision lenses. And you can see the lens in the picture here on the right hand side. So the design of the lenses is that the central 1 centimeter approximately segment contains the distance refractive error correction, and then you have these little multiple segments of relative plus 3.5 diopter adds in the periphery of the lens. And you can see that the spectacle lens in the picture at the bottom showing that little annulus or donut of those multiple segments, and the child is meant to look through the center of that lens, and that segment or the donut or annulus segment is to induce myopic defocus onto the peripheral retina. Now, when you do actually prescribe this to a child, those segments are not as obvious as that picture. It's actually quite difficult to see. So aesthetically, between a single vision and a DIMS lens, it's actually very, very similar. And so it's quite well accepted by children. And from some of the responses that we've seen at our UNSW myopia clinic, we've seen children not progress in myopia over a good 6 to 12 month treatment period. So the responses and the experience that we have personally had at our clinic has been very positive. So this is a lens that's commercially available for optometrists to be able to prescribe in clinical practice. Now, the MySite lens, which has also been around or available to optometrists in Australia for now a couple of years or longer, there's been studies or randomized control study over a 3-year treatment period to show the myopia control benefits of this particular contact lens. And this was a first FDA approved treatment for myopia control. And I think I've forgot to add a slide in there, but the current studies have also shown with that the MySite lens, that compared to single vision or the Proclip 1-day lens, that there was a significantly less myopia progression with the MySite over a 3-year treatment period. So this is also becoming a much more popular myopia control treatment that has been prescribed to children, and the benefits of contact lenses in general to children as well in terms of improvements in quality of life has also been a big motivator for practitioners to prescribe this particular contact lens to as a way of managing myopia. Now, orthokeratology lenses was originally developed for myopia correction, not for myopia control, but about 20 or so years ago, there were anecdotal reports of the benefits of prescribing these lenses in children, that practitioners found that children who were wearing OrthoK lenses had less myopia progression. And this sort of then triggered clinical trials to investigate the myopia control effects of OrthoK lenses. And there's been studies that have been conducted all over the world, including one that was conducted at our school. And we were able to show, or the studies collectively have shown, that OrthoK lenses can reduce myopia progression, around 45–44% compared to single vision lenses. And more recently this year, we have had a couple of OrthoK lenses, namely the Medicon Blue and the J&J Ability OrthoK lens that has also been approved for myopia control. So there has been a publication which I was very fortunate to be a part of, that was published a couple of years ago, which outlines or has some guidelines or recommendations on how to incorporate myopia management into clinical practice. And you can access this paper by going to the International Myopia Institute website that's shown on this slide here. As a part of these guidelines or recommendations, it does highlight the different review schedules for the different types of myopia control treatments, the minimum clinical testing that is recommended as a way of being able to appropriately manage and monitor myopic children, and also some different measurements that are indicated for specific treatments. So please have a look at these guidelines, because it does provide really important and clinically relevant information in being able to manage myopic children in clinical practice. And I guess I'll just finish off by saying that myopia is a highly evolving field in research, and new research and developments are being constantly published. And through the OPTM 7612 course, we hope to be able to educate and inform our students of the latest evidence-based treatment options that eye healthcare practitioners can incorporate into clinical practice. And with that, I might pass back to Nick to talk about how to apply for our programs.
Excellent. Look, thanks again for joining us tonight, Pauline. That was great. Look, I guess as someone who's had myopia since childhood, it's really interesting to see some of the treatments that are out there, the research that's driving these. And I think there's a staggering statistic that you had at the very beginning there, where you're talking about how there's likely to be 5 billion people in the world who have myopia by 2050. So definitely, obviously something that really needs a lot of research behind it, and great to see some of the work that the school's doing and how that can equally be something that students can get involved with as part of their study here. So I'm going to jump on now and talk about how to apply for the program, the ins and outs, probably the less exciting part of the session, but definitely one of the most important. And then in a few moments' time, I'm going to bring two of our speakers back on to take us through a Q&A. I can see a few questions have come through already, so throw them in now. Now's the best opportunity to get them in there, and we'll make sure that we answer as many as we can. So the Master of Optometry, as you've heard, it's obviously a very flexible program, and it at the same time though is really pitched at those who are clinical optometrists. They're practicing and they're looking to extend their knowledge. So from an admissions perspective, we're looking at admitting people into the program who have at least an equivalent to an undergraduate degree in optometry, so an AQF, Australian Qualifications Framework Level 7. And students are required to have maintained a WAM of a credit or above in their previous studies. We may accept students who are within the 50 to 64 weighted average mark section, but it's really going to come down to the degree of professional work experience that they've had, and also just their general performance in their previous degree in specific optometry units. So realistically, we're looking for you to apply, but also give us a really holistic understanding of your experiences, particularly in a clinical setting, since your degree. We have a term 1 and term 3 intake. I saw a question came in before around, do we have a term 2 intake? So we have 3 terms here at UNSW, so term 1, term 2, term 3. They're 3 10-week teaching terms. And for the Master of Optometry, based on how we offer the units, we have an intake in term 1 and then also in term 3. So if you're looking to apply for a term 1 commencement, we're accepting applications and expressions of interest. Applications are made online via the UNSW Apply Online portal, and you can send inquiries as well through to the very knowledgeable, very friendly postgrad optometry team at postgrad.optom@unsw.edu.au, and I'll be happy to answer any of those nitty-gritty, tricky questions that might have eluded you during today's session, but that you want to follow up on down the track. The application deadline for domestic students is the 28th of January next year. And the application deadline for international students is slightly earlier than this on the 21st of January. We also have a graduate certificate version of this program. And so we've listed this as alternative entry, but it's also really for those who might want to just do a smaller version of the Master of Optometry. You might have a certain area that you really want to build your knowledge in based on having a look at some of the units of study that Juno took us through earlier. The graduate certificate in optometry is an ideal way to be able to just build knowledge in a certain area without committing obviously to the 1.5-year program. It means as well that you can always jump back in and do the entire program down the track as well. So you'll obviously get advanced standing for that program. One thing I should mention as well, for those of you who might have an honours degree in optometry, is that if you are looking to do the Master of Optometry program, if you've got an AQF level 8, so an honours degree or equivalent, you may actually be eligible for up to 24 units of credit worth of advanced standing. So that would actually reduce the length of the degree down to 1 year. In terms of the graduate certificate though, a bit of a slightly smaller, naturally, structure. So you'll still do evidence-based optometry, but you'll then get the opportunity to take 3 elective courses. So you can make sure one of those is outside of the School of Optometry and Vision Science if you want to. So you might do a business school elective, as Juno was saying before, or a population health elective. And this program is actually Commonwealth supported as well. So students can commence in term 1 or term 2 only for the graduate certificate in optometry. So it's a slightly different intake timeline than the Master of Optometry. We have a number of other additional postgraduate programs that Juno touched on before. So we've got our graduate certificate in myopia management. If you really enjoyed Pauline's masterclass before, then this is definitely another way that you might be able to get a a smaller taster version and really do a deep dive into myopia as opposed to doing the full Master of Optometry program. Got a graduate certificate in ocular therapeutics for those of you who want to become accredited on the therapeutic side of things. And then our brand new graduate diploma in orientation and mobility. We actually ran a masterclass and an information session for this 2 weeks ago. So if you're interested in doing the graduate diploma and finding a bit more about how our orientation and mobility program is structured, the first of its kind in Australia, you can jump on the YouTube, just type in UNSW Graduate Diploma Orientation and Mobility, and it should pop up for you there. On that note, we've got to the end of the admission side of things. So I'm going to introduce our speakers again. So we're going to be joined now by both our program authorities for the Master of Optometry, Associate Professor Juno Kim rejoining us, but I'm also going to introduce Dr. Vinod Masudapalli. Vinod, do you want to jump on screen for a moment and just give us a bit of a synopsis about what your role is at the university and what really excites you about the Master of Optometry program?
Oh, great. You all can hear me, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
perfect. Yeah. So I'm a lecturer at the University of New South Wales at the School of Optometry. I'm a registered optometrist in Australia, and I teach essentially contact lenses and also advanced contact lenses at the university. So that's my role, and I'm recognized as an education-focused academic at the school. So my research now slowly gliding into towards teaching and pedagogy. So that's what is my, otherwise I'm also doing bit research with contact lenses and also orthokeratology with Pauline Kang and others. So, and along with Associate Professor Juno Kim, I'm co-program authority here. So that's my role.
Brilliant. All right, well, let's tap into both your combined knowledge on the Master of Optometry, sure. and I guess some of the questions might get us thinking a bit more broadly as well. One of the questions that's come in from those in the audience is, can registered and current practicing New Zealand optometrists take part in these Masters programs without moving countries? Is it possible to do the program fully online?
I can answer that question. So, it really depends on what is the focus of the student who want to, what they want to do, what they want to achieve through this master's program. So the reason I'm saying this is if they want something more like advanced contact lenses or say therapeutics, there are some compulsory workshops or practical classes that this candidate has to attend. And even though majority of it is actually delivered through online, some components, they still have to be here. So if not for a whole entire term, maybe for that particular workshop or practical session, they can come here. So that's one way of doing it. But another way of doing it is selecting those courses which are completely online. And by doing that way, they can still get their master's degree. So, but again, it all depends on their focus. As you can see, majority of our like vision science courses, orientation program are also the business side of the programs and also public health courses. If you curate all these courses, you'll still be able to make up for the 72 units of credits, and you can still have everything done online. Dr. Juno, if you want to add anything here.
Yeah, so I think of the courses that we went through in the presentation, it was really the contact lens ones that really require that face-to-face hands-on experience. So if you're wanting a completely online remote study opportunity and you're not interested in developing your expertise in contact lenses, then definitely there are options available to you. But as Vinod mentioned, the face-to-face component may only operate over a limited number of weeks. So if you could travel to Australia to engage with that contact directly, if you are interested in developing your expertise in contact lens practice, then that is a viable option. So the majority of things can be taken online.
For a reason, it's called contact lens, not contactless.
I like that. Look, it was only a matter of time until we got some of the puns happening here.
Sure.
I'm sure our audience appreciate that, and they probably get that on a daily basis, actually. Look, I know there's a comment/question for Pauline that's in the chat there regarding ABC's Catalyst program and some research into myopia there and how sunlight exposure may affect children and the development of myopia in them. Pauline's actually jumped off the call because she's running straight to a class afterwards. She managed to squeeze us in tonight. So apologies, Pauline won't be able to jump on to answer that question, but definitely a really interesting point. And I think it shows you as well that there's lots going on in this space, lots that the school is obviously doing and working with industry on, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops over the coming years. In terms of questions, I can see that we've answered most of them. There's another one that's just popped through that I think is coming through now. It's a follow-up question, and that is about the research project. So Juno or Vinod, I'll let one of you jump in on this. In terms of the research project, how is that managed? Is that, because obviously a lot of the component is online for this program to be flexible for those who are working. Is it possible to do the research component fully online? Would you have blended mode? Would you see your supervisor in person sometimes?
Yeah, I can answer that. I'll provide an answer, and I'm sure Vinod can follow up with further information because research is something that we are very interested in providing a world-class educational experience for research training, and they're currently supervising 2 students who are based in China right now who are enrolled in the Master of Optometry. So their topic is concerned with doing research in things like understanding how we can better automate procedures for grading corneal nerves that we acquire using confocal microscopy of the subbasal nerve plexus. So how can we use technologies like machine learning and technologies like this to automate that procedure and provide assistive technologies? Well, we can get data or acquire data online by presenting those images remotely. So we have many options available to running experiments online, and also you can engage in projects that may have existing data and using existing data sets to look at ways that you can mine that data for identifying new patterns that might be informative of better practices in healthcare and optometry and ophthalmology. But I'm sure Vinod has other ideas as well.
Do we still have time, Nick?
Yeah, look, I think for those who have joined us, we'll stay on for another 5 minutes or so. So if you want to hang around, we'll keep the conversation going. Otherwise, if you've got everything you need, feel free to jump off. That's all good, and hopefully we'll see you at some point not too far down the track. But yeah, Vinod, take it away.
Sure. So rightly said, Dr. Juno there. So depending on firstly, we have lots of choices. If you want to do a systematic review or meta-analysis, good literature review, even that will be considered as a part of your research project, so which can be done completely online. And one of the things that we discovered during this pandemic is actually while you are there in your home country, you can actually collaborate. If you've got an institute, you can actually collaborate with that institute, with us, and then we are able to do more clinical work or maybe if kind of field work. Also, we have a lot more opportunities to work, which can still be done online. So yeah.
Yeah,
excellent.
That's a good thing to consider. So perhaps even before you enroll, you may want to, or when you're early in your enrollment, you may want to engage with and to conduct research, face-to-face research remotely. So outside of Australia, you can engage with potential clinicians or academics based externally to Australia who could supervise that work with patients, for example, and then you can establish a collaboration with UNSW and we can get some agreement going to manage things like work health and safety and things like that too. So yeah, just think about those options, and they are viable.
I want to add one little bit here. So the way it works, maybe the student wants to know how exactly this is done here. The way generally it works here is that we identify quite a few topics first, and then all the different researchers in the building pool these research ideas and topics, and then we will give away to students once they are enrolled. So they have they can come up with their own idea, but alternatively they can choose one of these topics, and the supervisor who actually the researcher who proposed the topic will be the supervisor for them. So that's how it works, and then you select the area and then you work with them throughout the program.
Yeah, look, really good to hear. I think it kind of echoes the flexibility, and that we, particularly at postgraduate level, there really is that strong connection with the academics that you're working with, and that it's just about reaching out. And I think for the person who asked us that question around, if you're a New Zealand optometrist and you want to do this program, I would reach out directly to the school and begin that conversation. So I think that's the best way to begin planning out what your units might look like, to see if it is possible to, based on your interest, build a program that could be fully online. And so what I might do is I might get one of my colleagues who are in the wings to post into the chat the postgrad optom email address again, just so that you can reach out to the team there. A question that's come through a second time as well, and I'll just reiterate this, is around when the Master of Optometry is offered, so whether it does have a Term 2 intake. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a Term 2 intake. Correct me if I'm wrong here if we're changing this for next year, Vinod or Juno, but it's a Term 1 and a Term 3 intake based on our 3-term cycle. Is that advice is still unchanged, Vinod and Juno?
From my understanding, it's unchanged. Juno, all right? Yep. So unfortunately, first correction is this not semester anymore, it's term basis. So we have 3 terms, term 1, term 2, and term 3. So currently we're in term 3. So yeah, you can look up our UNSW calendar. That will give you an idea.
Yeah, and look, I think one thing to emphasize to students who might have been thinking about, if you are thinking more of a semester model versus a term model, at UNSW, because our terms are slightly shorter, so that they're 10-week teaching terms, it actually does give you more flexibility. So hence, if you're thinking of starting in, say, some second semester in another university, based on kind of that 2-semester model, you'll find that our Term 3 actually aligns really closely with when a second semester would be. So you can jump online and have a look at the term dates for 2022. They've already been published. But also, again, as I say, I think reaching out to the school is a great way to begin that conversation, particularly if you've got concerns around when you might be able to start based on work commitments or travel commitments, particularly if you're an international student. We obviously know that it's been a real challenge over the last 2 years, but for everyone because of the global pandemic, and we'll obviously work with you as much as possible to make sure you're getting the best outcome overall for your study. I don't think we've had any further questions come through, so what I might do is I might throw a bit of a curveball question to both Juno and Vinod here, and that is that really, what is your best piece of advice to prospective students thinking about doing the Master of Optometry? What, it could be really based around what excites you the most and what they can look forward to. It could be around a bit of more career guidance and how that might extend their career. But if you had to boil it down, what is that one piece of advice that you'd love to give to some of the students who are joining us tonight?
I'll let Juno go first, and then I'll add.
That's a good call. Look, it's a good way. It gives you a few
easy for me because I will just give the advice that I usually give, and it's really think about your career aspirations and where you see yourself, in 5 years from now. What knowledge and expertise, does that person need, and then work backwards from there, exploring the advanced options in coursework and research that are available within the program, and then looking at what you might need in terms of foundation coursework offered within the school, or perhaps even outside of the school and the other offerings to support those achievements in research or coursework. So sort of like, yeah, picture and I don't want to say the sky's the limit, because there really is no limit. You really want to really open your mind up to your future potential and think about where you really do want to go, and work back from there. And you'll find that there is a configuration that will ultimately work for you within the current offerings.
Yeah, look, I think it's really, really interesting advice, and it probably puts Vinod even more on the spot here. So Vinod, over to you.
Yes, no, that's exactly my answer would have been. Just to be more specific on, sorry, I'm in dark now. So to be more specific, as you can see, coming down a few steps here, you can see yourself being on becoming more specialized in the community eye care side, or you might want to do more on the business and management side if you're somebody who has been working for a corporate company for a long time, and maybe that your aspiration will be towards the business side. If you want to do more clinical applied clinical knowledge here, maybe therapeutics and maybe contact lenses and other advanced clinical courses you might want to take. So depending on what exactly you want, I'm exactly telling the same thing as what Gino mentioned, but I'm just drilling it down a little bit further. That's it. So,
and I think also, irrespective of whether you currently have an interest in research or not, just consider how research does provide you with that course that is essentially a wild card that you can tailor in any particular direction. So it does offer you with that capacity to really engage with world-class academics to achieve your full potential in a particular area.
Excellent. Look, I think it's a really nice note to wrap up on. I know we've had I think we may have had another question come through, but it might have disappeared from my screen. So look, if we do have any further questions, we've got the email address in the chat. So make sure you reach out to the School of Optometry team. As I say, they're always happy to help and provide advice. So it really is one of those first steps in working out exactly what your journey is going to look like. And as both Juno and Bernard have emphasized, there's so much flexibility in the program that might even seem as though it's almost paralytic in terms of where should I start, what's it going to look like, and I think having that conversation and reaching out to us is a great way for us to tap into what your interests are and then work out what kind of units align with those interests so you get the most out of the program. So look, we're going to wrap up on that note. There's lots that goes on at UNSW throughout the year, so I definitely invite you and encourage you to connect with us. You can stay in the loop on all of our upcoming events. That's School of Optometry and Vision Science events, but also our broader UNSW events, our talks. We do lots throughout the year, so it'd be great to see you again. But as we emphasized before, reach out to the School of Optometry and Vision Science with any questions you've got. Reach out to our future students office as well. Our future student advisors work 9 to 5, and they're always happy to help work out exactly what program is going to get you to that endpoint that you're looking for, or even to work through what that endpoint might even look for you based on your interests. So it'd be great to hear from you again. Thanks for all of our speakers who have joined us. So Pauline, who's had to duck off, Juno and Vinod. Great having you all here tonight, and great hearing from you and having your experiences shared to us and some of those insights that hopefully have inspired some of the students, prospective students who have joined us here today. So thanks to those of you in the audience today as well, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you either on campus or online at UNSW sometime soon. All the very best for your studies, and take care. Cheers.
You're the person the world needs. Life is changing, and the future is uncertain. You may not know how or why yet, but you know you're here to make a difference. You're not waiting for the universe to give you the answers. You're finding them for yourself. Challenging echoes with evidence. Few people have great ideas. Even fewer make them happen. It takes a dreamer, an explorer, a researcher, a leader, a thinker. It takes someone like